Okay, hi there, everyone, and welcome to today's University Business Web Seminar. My name is Kurt Isidurley. I'm the Web Seminar Editor here at UB, and I'll be your moderator. The title of our event today, as you see here, is How to Improve Campus Facilities Maintenance and Operations, and it is being brought to you through the generous support of our sponsor for today, Dude Solutions. First off, as our attendees are still coming in here, a bit of background about our topic for today. The quality of campus facilities can be one of the most influential factors for prospective students before they choose to enroll in a college or university. Many institutions struggle to maintain or repair aging campus buildings and keep up with student expectations without increasing costs. Us here at University Business, we recently conducted an audience survey about this topic, asking higher ed leaders about the biggest challenges they face in this area. Today we're going to see some of the results of the survey and learn some strategies for improving the maintenance and operations of your campus facilities. We're looking forward to an interesting presentation and discussion here, plus live Q&A. We welcome your questions. So do stay tuned. We'll get started in just a minute or two here. First, though, just some quick housekeeping. First item, as it says here, for technical support, you can use the chat panel at the right side of your screen there. Just select the name of our event host and producer, Jason York. Let him know if you're having any technical problems. He'll be able to help you out there. Also, in that chat panel, we will post the phone number and access code if you have any trouble listening through your computer speakers, or if you prefer to listen over the phone, you can dial those numbers at any time. Also, as I said earlier, if you have a question, we welcome your questions. Please feel free to enter in the Q&A at the bottom right-hand corner there. Just make sure it's set to all panelists like it shows on the slide here. And we'll get to the questions at the end, after the presentation, during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar here. So again, if you do have a question, feel free at any time. Just enter it in the Q&A there, bottom right-hand corner. Also, speaking of questions, we are often asked about accessing our webinars at a later time. And yes, everyone who registered or attended will be getting a follow-up email with links to where you can find the slides if you want to go back over them, as well as the archive recording. We are recording here, and it will be posted on the UB site. So if you do want to go back over the content at any time in the future, or if you want to share with anyone or forward to anyone at your institution, you'll be able to do that later on. Okay, so with that, on to our program, our presentation here today. We are fortunate to have with us Casey Hobson. She's Senior Product Manager at Dude Solutions. She's going to walk us through a presentation about using data effectively, and we'll also look at some of the survey results from the UB survey. So I'll turn it over to her at this point. Casey, it's great to have you. Welcome to today's webinar.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks everyone for joining us today. So as Kurt said, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about improving campus facilities and maintenance operations. We're going to reflect on some of that stuff some of those questions that we asked our survey participants and kind of dive into those results. I'm going to go ahead and start by clicking through and talking a little bit just kind of data in general before we dive into those results. As Kurt mentioned, I am Casey Hobson. I'm a Senior Product Manager at Dude Solutions. I work with our data and analytics products. So day in and day out, we look at our data and how we can present that to help clients make decisions, use that data in effective ways. So we'll talk a little bit about that. What we're going to step through today is kind of relating to analytics in a day-to-day fashion. What the importance of data is in our organizations at the university level, what we heard from those survey results, and then a look into the future, going predictive, looking and forecasting out, not just answering those questions for today, but how you might go about taking a look and being proactive for how maintenance and operations functions in the future for your organization. We'll start. Information is, according to Peter Syndergaard, is the information is the oil of the 21st century. It really is a gold mine. It allows for us to provide insight into what we're doing from day to day. Data is everywhere from our cell phones, in our where we work, we live, we play. So we have all this data. It's how we use that data to drive insight, take action, and make decisions. And we really can do that through many different facets. So we'll talk a little bit about how we see data in our day-to-day. First, you might recognize some of these devices. These smart home devices help to control where we live. We can make our homes more comfortable. We can get alerts and notifications to be able to set our devices and our home to where we like them ahead of time before we come home, when we leave, to save energy. So it's really great to see that we have data. They take this data and then they use it within these applications to help us make additional decisions, set schedules when we come home, when we leave, provide insights on what our energy costs might be or how we may be using the systems within our home. Where we work, this is actually the Dude Solutions headquarters in Cary, North Carolina, building automation systems, driving those decisions through data. There's a lot of data that goes in when you swipe a badge. Data goes in for who uses it, what they've accessed, coming in and out of the building. Data is there. How you use that within that facility helps to drive how we continue to provide light, heat, air conditioning throughout the summer, seeing that information in our day-to-day and where we work. In addition, we see data where we learn in schools, in universities, K through 12, on campus, seeing things everywhere from students and their grades to their actual facilities, how things are operating when events are taking place, off hours, on hours, within the system, so that you can gain insight onto what buildings are being used, what might need attention. Maybe there's additional buildings that are used more often, which may lead to more maintenance going forward. So seeing that in our day-to-day work, our kids learn. We see that in being able to gather that data and provide that insight. So I wanted to jump into what we call spurious correlations. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of that before, but there's definitely a distinction between correlation and causation. So we'll have a little fun in kind of painting some pictures of data in our everyday life and how we might see that as a relatable event, and then we'll dive a little bit into what that means from a maintenance operations perspective at the university level. One thing to start off is that correlation is not causation. There is no cause and effect with correlation. There may be an association, but the two variables may not be related. Whereas causation would indicate that the event is a result of the other. So there is that cause and effect with that relationship. So where there may be a relation in correlation, there is not causation. And causation can be a little more difficult to show. One example that we have is ice cream. So when ice cream sales go up in the summer, so do shark attacks. Does that mean that ice cream is causing shark attacks, or shark attacks is causing the sales to go up? No, there's just that they both increase when the weather's hot. So that's an example of a correlation, but one is not causing the other. It's very important for when we have this data that we are able to ensure that we present it and use it in a way that is meaningful and helps clients to make decisions, to be more efficient, and that we're not just putting two unrelated items together to make data work. So what about causation? Causation, it can be difficult to prove because there's a lot of variables. It is possible using a very well-designed controlled experiment. Things like A/B testing, multivariate testing, causal inferences. All of these are opportunities to look at causation, but in a lot of examples you'll see when you look at two different maybe items that are within that scope and looking at data in comparison, they might not always be caused by one another, but it just might be a correlation. So something that always sticks out when you look at a comparison there. So why is data important? Data is extremely important to, one, capture. Once you capture that data, then you can start using that to provide information in meaningful ways and help users identify maybe where they could be more efficient, how their operations are. Analytics really helps us provide and identify patterns, see that information, suggest improvement, and help individuals make decisions that can better their organizations. By capturing all of that data, ensuring that that data is consistent, they're able to measure effectiveness, have reporting capabilities, dashboard capabilities to see that, drilling down to identify where there may be issues, and be able to communicate that information, whether it's up the chain, down the chain, to share successes or needs for improvement. That can help with that decision making through funding or needs-based items, and help to change even everyday patterns, making those adjustments with staffing or investment into the maintenance and operations of every day. And then forward thinking, looking at the future. How do you use that data to drive insights? So taking the current plan and then iterating on that to make decisions going forward for the next plan. And that's really how data can be used to provide benefits to an organization, and using that information to help tell a story. So we're going to go through a few stories that data has told. We've seen in the news. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of Foursquare, but Foursquare was an app that was used you could check in when you went to a location, and they actually were able to map millions of locations just by people checking in on the app. So really being able to use that GIS location information. And through that, they were actually able to predict that the Chipotle was going to have an impact, the foot traffic was going to have an impact on their sales based on the issue with the outbreak that they had. And they were able to predict that weeks before Chipotle was actually able to identify that they were going to have a hit in sales due to the outbreak there. So using the data that they had within their applications, they saw that foot traffic drop and were able to anticipate that. And they put that on a blog post 2 weeks before anyone actually knew about it and before Chipotle took any action. Another interesting story that was told through data, if many people have different shopping applications where they can go in and use coupons, and Target's one of them. I know I use this every day, almost every day, it tracks your purchases. So every time you go and you make a purchase and you use I think it was the Cartwheel app before, I think it's called the Target Rewards app, but they actually use that to track your purchases into coupons that are relative to what you have already purchased. Through that, a dad got a notification and a coupon for some diapers. He said, my kids are actually they're all grown. They're in high school. My kids aren't in diapers anymore. But what had happened was his daughter had actually purchased a pregnancy test. And Target used that information, said, well, you're going to have a baby, so here's a coupon for some diapers. And that's how the dad found out that he was going to be a grandpa. So this data that all these applications and things every day that we utilize are using this information and then providing insights to us, like an example at Target. So what we want to take a look at is being able to set that foundation of how do you focus on the basics. First, capturing that data, and then what do you do with that? Utilizing reports, dashboards, key performance indicators to help tell a story for your organization. Reports allow for you to provide the right information to the right people at the right time, whether it's via email, during a meeting. You're able to really isolate that information, provide it to the people that need it, so then they can drive decisions from there. Dashboards allow for you to bring together a host of data into one location and provide insights into what really matter. And then using key performance indicators can help provide performance level, not just at an organization level, but across industries. Being able to see where organizations stand is very helpful and insightful into starting at the foundation. And once that is established, then you can really start to answer those questions, start to tell that story with your data through those foundational items. That brings us, we've kind of started off the path on data and how it is in every day. And so now we're going to take a look at what the survey panel said, and just understand, kind of dive into some of those results as it relates to the university system around maintenance and operations, and what that story has told us. So we surveyed 106 participants. There's a little more, but the 106 responded. They were comprised of private 4-year, public 4-year, private 2-year, and public 2-year. And so you can see here there's different institution sizes that responded as well. So these are the participants that submitted this feedback, and we'll go through those questions and discuss a little bit on those insights from that data. The first question really had to do with the overall effectiveness of facilities and maintenance and operations on a scale of 1 to 4. And what we found was that there was an average of a 3 rating. And we have seen the landscape's changed over the last 20 years from a manual process, paper-based, to an automated electronic process where insights are a little bit more available, and they are accessible. So people are feeling they have that information. So they have better insights, and they're able to drive more effective maintenance and operations programs. There's always room for improvement, which we'll dive in, and as we go through some of these questions, we'll start to tell that story of how that shift is happening. The next question was around ongoing maintenance of campus facilities being more costly and burdensome over the past 5 to 10 years. And it was a staggering agreement that it was definitely costing a lot more money. And we'll dive into how much, into the insight of what can drive that. But there's many factors, and having data to back that up on what's driving cost can help pinpoint areas to help maintain that help ensure that it doesn't, that those areas are addressed. Whether it's an aging workforce, whether it's aging equipment, having the data to back that up, it is very key to being able to take the next steps and make decisions and action on evaluating that cost. Next question was asked is, has your institution been negatively impacted by unexpected and costly repairs? So unforeseen costs, not just expected daily maintenance. And we've definitely seen across the participants that it was. So that unexpected can derail a plan. It can affect the planned maintenance that's already scheduled and have a downstream impact for maintenance and operations to continue on the path, which then can change the outlook, the budget, and the overall plan for the year, and then into the following years. So how can you use that information to identify what could be prevented in an event and reduce the number of unexpected costs to help improve overall operations and maintenance costs? We also asked when it comes to the cost facility, where is that money spent? Is it spent on corrective maintenance or is it spent on preventative maintenance? So, knowing that the unexpected costs are coming up, then how often now and how much are we spending on and being proactive instead of reacting? And we saw that the results were telling that the corrective maintenance is definitely on the higher cost and investment, whereas being proactive across the organizations was a little bit lower. And so trying to make that shift into being more proactive, identifying through information about maintenance and operations and the data can help to shift, knowing what preventative measures can be taken, what maintenance can be performed to help reduce that corrective maintenance and essentially bring down that cost. We also dove into what institutions, facilities, and maintenance departments are able to anticipate facility needs, or do they spend most of the time? So not just a cost, are they mostly spending time on reacting to problems after they occur, or are they taking a look ahead to prevent that maintenance before it happens? And the results were pretty much in line with what we had been seeing in the previous questions, that departments are spending either equal or more time responding to problems than preventing problems. So if we can make that, identify how to, through the current maintenance and operations plans, how to shift over to spending more time on preventing, having less unexpected events come up, to be able to drive efficiencies, drive down costs, and be able to be in front of things before they happen. It's pretty evident throughout these results that we've seen so far. The next question we took a look at was looking at the facilities and departments being able to set a preventive maintenance schedule 1 to 2 years in advance. So, where was their insight into being able to set that schedule, act on that, is pretty key on, again, preventing that the unexpected and bringing down the corrective maintenance costs. This may be a result, we saw that a little less than half said yes, and there were quite a bit of unsure whether the roles of the participants were not privy to the scheduling of that preventative maintenance. But it's pretty clear that we've seen individuals and institutions unable to, set that preventative ahead of time. So very, very telling there as well. The next question we dug into was taking a look at how the institution's being prepared to meet the future financial and challenges that could be caused by aging campus facilities. So taking a step from that 1 to 2 year look, the preparation for looking at even farther, being able to handle the maintenance operations on the campus facilities. And we saw that some were, I'll go back to that. So they, so seeing that the current needs and costs of oh, wait, I think I skipped. Apologize, let me hop back. Clicked on the wrong one. So we saw that some felt that the institution was prepared to look beyond 5 to 10 years. Some did not have that confidence, whether that is a piggyback on the story that we've seen so far, where most of the cost, most of the time is spent on corrective, playing catch up as opposed to looking forward, even 1 to 2 years and 5 to 10. So sort of in that middle of the road. Some feel somewhat prepared and others do not. We also took a look at that as characterizing the level of data insights an institution has into maintenance operations. So do people feel that they have an idea on what the needs and costs, and they're able to anticipate the future needs and costs? Do they have access to that? And, we're seeing that based on the shift over the last 20 years from a very manual process, manual reporting, that we're seeing that shift, that they're able to have some insight based on an automated electronic system where they're able to gain some feedback through some data that they've captured, and they're able to do some reporting, gain some insight, and hopefully drive their decisions. But what I'm sure in most institutions, they would all love to make that full shift to having an extensive and detailed idea so that they can do more preventative, since they are driving down those costs on the corrective end. So that leads us into our next segment on talking about going into predictive and being able to look forward into what the future holds for maintenance operations. So we take a look at a couple of questions, looking at the vision for tomorrow. So today you may be asking yourself at your institution, there's sort of today's questions of what maintenance is costing, how many hours are we spending on maintenance, where's events, facilities being used, and energy consumption. That's looking at what is that today, so we can take a look at the current state of operations. But it's making that shift to look at tomorrow. How much will maintenance cost me in the future, that 1 to 2 years, 5 to 10 years, so that capacity planning or resource planning, budget planning can also account for that. How will facilities be used after hours, or is there a shift in how they might be used, how many hours, and then the energy consumption. Are there things that can be done and implemented to drive energy consumption down, or even if energy consumption goes up, how do we mitigate that and manage it? So starting to ask those questions on shifting away from, what is it today to what will it be, can help drive those insights into what may be in store for maintenance and operations in your organization tomorrow. So starting to look at those questions and what they might be. At Dude Solutions, we are really aiming to give our clients a deeper understanding of their operations. We want to help them make decisions, help drive change management and efficiency back into their business based on the insights that they can get out of their data in the system. So we started with a set of questions, kind kind of taking a look at overall maintenance. What will the schedule look like over the next 6-12 months for work orders and maintenance and things like that? How could I adjust my preventative maintenance schedule based on what we've done and historically for corrective maintenance? Taking a look at assets and repairs. Are there things that I could plan and replace later based on a change in preventative maintenance practices? Really starting to identify what those questions are to be able to help identify what insights and what action can be taken from there. So where we have a data science focus around predictive maintenance. So we talked about building that foundation of reporting and dashboards and key performance indicators. There's a shift on being able to deliver proof points and setting that course for predictive maintenance, and that's looking at a forecast. What does it look like around the corner for key areas of the business and maintenance and operations, and then being able to provide enhanced insights into data sets that exist. So what classifications can we predict? Have smart filters and smart population of data based on classification information. And then taking a look at the health and risk, being able to quantify the state of an asset. These are some things that we're using data science around to explore and utilize within our products to help our clients get a peek into the future and looking at predictive maintenance. One of these items is our maintenance forecast report, and this forecast is really just taking a look at historical values and utilizing modeling, being able to predict within an upper and lower threshold what that would be over the next 6, 12, 18 months. So using data that we have to be able to predict that going forward can provide insight. Is there a shift up? Are we expected to see that shift down using the historical data? And being able to present that in a very clear way with very clear guidelines is going to help. Is meant to help drive decisions on the maintenance and operations teams to help improve the overall organization. Another, as I mentioned, at asset health and risk, being able to easily identify, assets across an organization and what the health is of those, and easily visualize that on a map, be able to easily access that information, identify what might be needed, easily see that, and then make a decision and help use that information to drive decisions, whether it might be on a day-to-day task or an overall planning aspect, really providing those insights. These are things that we're working on today for our clients. In addition to the maintenance forecast and the asset health and risk, we're taking a look and asking some additional questions. And how do we utilize this to help our clients? These are questions that have been brought to us or we've generated based on research. And what do great operations teams look like? What are the skill sets made up? How can a best preventative maintenance schedule be implemented for a particular asset? What can we forecast energy usage, energy costs? How can we look at events taking place, facilities usage? All of these things are additional questions that we're looking to explore and be able to identify how we can look and forecast into the future and ask those questions on a forward-looking basis as opposed to staying in the today on how things are. And while those basics and foundations are very important to be able to tell that story of where things are today, being able to take that leap and just start asking these questions can help drive a look at a predictive maintenance approach and help things move that needle from, not a lot of insight into an overall plan for 5 to 10 years to an extensive and detailed, feeling like preventative costs and time are spent more so than reacting to corrective maintenance. So all of this, it can help shift the needle by asking these questions, capturing that data, and then utilizing that data to be able to forecast going forward. And that is the end of my portion of the presentation. We do have a poll question. And if you would like more information about how Dude Solutions can help you take the next step, you can answer. The poll will be up for a minute. You can answer yes or no. And we will reach out to those of you who are interested in learning more about taking predictive, the next step into getting more insight into predictive maintenance.
Great. Thank you so much, Casey. Yes, to our audience here, if you're interested, we just wanted to take a moment here to give you the opportunity. If you select yes here, just click submit at the bottom. Someone will get in touch with you with some more information if you'd like to learn more about how you can head in the direction that we're talking about here, predictive maintenance and operations on your campus at your institution. So thanks to everyone for participating in that. Yes, at this point, we are going to get to the Q&A portion here. Just a couple quick reminders. We did get some questions there asking about accessing the presentation, either the recording or the slides. And yes, everyone, once again, everyone who registered will be getting follow-up communications with links to where you can find the slides and the archive recording here, so you can go back over it, share with anyone at your institution. If you want to go back over it, you'll have opportunity to do that. Another quick reminder, if you do have a question, feel free to type it in the Q&A, the bottom right-hand corner there. Not the chat window, but the Q&A. If you have any questions for Casey here. Let's see, Casey, you talked at one point about different types of data that you can track. There's a question here asking about that. Do you have any recommendations for which reports, dashboards, and KPIs to track?
Yeah, so starting with, counts and numbers on what assets might be involved, what types of work is being done, taking a look really on work order, how is all of the work rolling up? Are you spending time on repairing the HVAC units? Are you spending time on repairing, inside facilities, outside facilities? Being able to categorize that. So really, first and foremost, ensuring the data, you have the data, and you're tracking that. That's one of the things that we see quite frequently is the lack of data. So once you have that data, you're capturing it on who's performing the work, how long it's taking, when it's completed, those types of things can help start to build that story, pulling together what that might look like as far as by location, by building, then being able to see who's spending time on work, where they're spending time on work, can really help to pull together a report or dashboard to provide insight into the overall maintenance and operations.
Okay, sure. And then follow-up question, who should we be sharing those with, and what discussion should we be having if you're at an institution collecting some of those data points?
Yeah, so I think the pulling those together and being able to share those to those individuals that drive decisions. They may make budget decisions, staffing decisions, being able to present that data and show the facts that, you know, we're spending this much time on this maintenance and we're correcting these issues over and over again, can help to identify where, you know, the investment might need to be made. And those individuals, whether they're maintenance supervisors or even those individuals in the system that make decisions to increase maintenance staff and help drive new assets and things like that, will be really helpful to implementing change.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. And what kinds of decisions does this data help to support? So you're using the kind of data that you're talking about. What does that inform? What kinds of decisions?
It can inform any, we've seen clients use this data to make changes to whether it's scheduling, staffing, a shift on implementing a more preventative maintenance and seeing that shift drive down their corrective maintenance costs. So being able to, you know, whether it's budgets, whether it's where the focus is to address issues in maintenance, they're able to see that where the needs are and then address them as they're presented.
Okay, thank you. And this is a common question we often get, is asking what advice do you have for anyone who may just be getting started headed in this direction? Are there first things you would recommend if you're heading in this more predictive data direction when it comes to facilities like you're talking about?
Yeah, I think first is to start thinking about the questions that you want to answer. What's valuable? What questions are you being asked? Whether it's by management or downstream, what's that information, and what are the questions that you need to answer? And then identifying what data would be able to answer that. And you know, the next step then is ensuring that you are capturing that information and in a way that can be reported back. You know, consistently capturing data, ensuring your team is capturing the information will ensure that you then have that data. You know, forecasting and being predictive really utilizes models on historical data. So without that data, it's hard to predict what can happen going forward. So really being able to start capturing that data will start to be meaningful from there.
Okay, sure. Makes sense. Thank you. Well, it looks like I believe we've hit all of our questions here. Thanks to everyone for your participation in submitting questions. And I'll wrap things up here on behalf of University Business. Once again, I'd like to thank our speaker, Casey Hobson. Thanks so much for sharing your time and expertise with us here today. And thanks to our sponsor, Dude Solutions, for their generous support of our webinar. And of course, to all of you, thank you so much for joining us today. I do hope you found today's webinar informative and useful to you. Producing events like this one is just part of our mission here at UB to inform college and university leaders like you about the latest news and trends in higher ed management. You'll find more coverage about issues such as the ones we discussed here in the pages of our print magazine, as well as on our website and digital edition, and in our other webinars like this one, as well as our various e-newsletters, which you can sign up for right from our website. And as I mentioned before, for those of you who would like to share the content of this webinar, or if you want to go back over it at your own pace, you can access it, the archive recording, at the URL on your screen here, where it will be posted as an archive recording. If you'd like to download the slides, just keep an eye out for that follow-up email. Thank you for attending email. You'll be receiving that later on, very soon, and that'll include links to the slides and the archive recording. So that is it for today's event. Once again, I'm Kurt Eisler for University of Business. On behalf of our production team and everyone here at UB, goodbye, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us today.